My name is Joshua Stewart. I'm 35 years old. I'm from Germantown, Ohio. I guess the best place to start would be from my childhood. Um, my very first memory is at 2.5 years old in 1986. My dad was killed in a car accident. And I remember my mom picking me up at the funeral home and telling me that I should give him a kiss because it would be the last time I saw him. So she picked me up. I gave him a kiss. She sat me down, and one of her friends took me out of there and watched after me until it was over. So my life began extremely rocky. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only loss that I was going to experience early on in my childhood. In 1990, my uncle was shot and killed in Miraculous, Ohio. That was my best friend. After my dad had passed, he kind of stepped in and really played the man role in my life. Taught me how to play baseball. He taught me how to color. And he was taken away. They were partying. Some girl was involved, and things got out of control, and he was shot and killed. A little while later, about a year and a half later, I don't remember the exact date, his older brother was shot and killed. Also here in Miraculous, Ohio. And that really wrecked my family. It wrecked me. I was a child. I understood the loss, yet I didn't know the impact of such a thing until I began to look around. As I began to watch my family fall apart, I began to see how emotion that was uncontrolled and unchecked destroyed things. I began to watch people who had no idea how to handle such loss. My mom lost 2 of her brothers, her husband. I lost my dad, my 2 uncles. And it just devastated us. I watched my family just fall apart. I watched my mom go in and out of bars and use drugs. And when she was doing these things, she seemed happy. She seemed like she was able to control this emotion that was so destructive. And so growing up, as I began to really experience emotion, sadness and anger, a sense of loss, like the people I got close to seemed to just disappear and never come back. So I didn't know how to handle that stuff. Nobody was there that knew and could teach me how to handle it. What I saw was if you use drugs and alcohol, you live a better life. And so as a child, like I said, my uncle taught me how to play baseball. So that's what I did. I played baseball. And that was my life. And I loved baseball and I was good at it. And that was the one place that I could be, that I could forget everything. You see, those losses wasn't the only thing going on in my life. My house, my home. My mom had gotten remarried in 1989. I had a stepdad now. And we didn't get along because he's not my dad. He can't tell me what to do. Things were awful at home. I was always in trouble for just stuff that didn't even seem like they mattered. There was never peace in my home. Somebody was always yelling and screaming. Somebody was always getting in trouble. I have 2 younger brothers. I'm the oldest. So it was really just chaos. I remember one night My mom and my stepdad, before he was my stepdad, before they got married, had come home from the bar, and it was early in the morning. I remember waking up to yelling and screaming, and I got up to see what was going on, and I went to my parents' bedroom, and then I watched my stepdad hit my mom. And then it was just chaos, and she kicked him out of the house, and he smashed the window to break back in. It was a mess. So here, this place of peace, this place of comfort that is supposed to be is just awful for me. So when I played baseball, that was my escape. When I was on that field, nothing else mattered. And so as I grew up, that was my focus. I was going to play baseball. I was going to get good grades in school so that I could go to college, so that I could move out of my home, so I could get out of the little small town of Germantown, Ohio, where it just seems that nothing was going on. I didn't want to be there. I wanted nothing to do with it. I simply wanted to escape. So as I got older, I began to go to church because a friend of mine whom I played baseball with, his mom made a deal with me. She said I could come over and stay any weekend I wanted to, as long as I went to church with him. And I agreed. It got me out of the house for the weekend. I couldn't get in trouble if I wasn't there. I mean, there were times where I was grounded in my room, no TV, no friends for like 6 months on end. So when they offered me that, I took it. It wasn't that I was interested in church. I was interested in an escape. I could hang out with my friend. I didn't have to be at home. So I think I went to church for 3 or 4 years. All I was interested in was the girls and the escape. And I quit going eventually because my life was changing again. I began to use marijuana, trying to deal with emotions and circumstance and just simply trying to escape. I began using marijuana at the end of my 8th grade year. And it was an escape. So I became an athlete. I ran track in middle school, and I played football, and I played baseball. And then once I got to high school, I played baseball and football. And I loved it. It was so great. But came my sophomore year, I decided I didn't want to play football anymore. I just wanted to focus on baseball. And the baseball season was rolling around, and my stepdad caught me with a pack of cigarettes. And he told me that if I was caught again, that I wouldn't be able to play baseball. And I thought that was absolutely absurd. There's no way that's going to happen. So I got caught again with another pack of cigarettes, and he said I couldn't play. And when he said that, I lost it. All the rage and hurt and loss. And now here's another thing that's taken from me. My way out is taken from me. Now, any normal person that knows how to handle emotion probably would have just sucked it up, went about their school year, and then just done better the following year and made sure that they could play, but that wasn't me. All the anger came out, all the rage came out, all of the middle finger to everybody came out. Like, you're going to take this from me? Okay. I'm going to show you. and it came out. And so I really began using drugs. It wasn't just pot now, it was acid and ecstasy and just anything I could get my hands on, any pharmaceutical, just to escape, just to feel better, just to forget about what's going on. I began not coming home. I got involved with the police at a young age. I began fighting, just expressing my misery. Home life got worse. I was charged with domestic violence because I got in a fight with my stepdad. Like life was out of control already. My hopes and dreams were dashed. My way of escape my home and to be somebody in this world was destroyed because I didn't just take it with a lump of salt, a grain of salt. I destroyed everything, and that's what I was good at. So by the time my junior year came around, I still wasn't playing baseball because my grades were so low. I was a straight A student, and then I wasn't because I didn't care. I got suspended from school. I even got kicked out of school for fighting. I just wanted people to feel how I felt. I hurt people with my words. I became a bully. I was so selfish. I eventually dropped out of high school. I was able to come back my senior year because of a loophole in the way that the system was built there. And I didn't make it till October 3rd or 4th, right after my birthday, and I dropped out. I decided it was better for me to work to be able to support my drug habit. So by that time, I'm working to party. I worked real hard to party my money away. Because life crapped on me. And so I got to take care of me and I got to feel better. Because I don't know how to deal with what I'm going through. So I ended up continuing to do drugs. By this time, it's just about everything. In and out of jail. I've been to prison. Went to prison in 2008. Got out in 2009. I've been to 7 different rehabs. And nothing was working. By this time, I've done every drug known to man, really. I was hooked to cocaine, crack. And then it took a turn. It took a turn. In 2006, I got hooked to IV heroin use. By this time, I'd had a son in 2005 with a woman I'd been with since 2004. We wasn't married, but we lived together. And because of my cocaine addiction and in and out of rehabs and jail, she decided it was best if we split up. So I ended up dating another woman, and we began to use heroin together. And from then I was hooked. 2007, I overdosed. And paramedics and doctors said I died 3 times in that one overdose because nobody knew that I was injecting heroin because I hid it. In those 3 deaths, I had an out-of-body experience. I saw myself laying on the ground with the paramedics next to me. And I began to roll over. And as I rolled over, I sat up. And when I sat up, I saw my son's mom in her uncle's arms crying. And I began to float up. And then the next thing I remember is I'm before Jesus. He's huge. He's massive. Like there he is, this figure that had been talked to me about in church is right there. In a white gown, I've never seen such white. There was a peace that I cannot explain, I haven't experienced since. There was a timelessness. Like I don't know how long I was there before him. But what I do know is it was Jesus Christ. What I do know is that he did not even say a word to me. But instead, he pointed at me. And when he pointed at me, he pointed down. And when he pointed down, I woke up in the hospital bed. I woke up in the hospital bed terrified. I began to pull at my IV and at my tubes. And in came the people and they strapped me down in the bed. So now at this point in my life, I know that Jesus Christ is real. Like he exists, like he's not just in a book. He wasn't just a good man, but that he died and he was buried and he was resurrected and glorified at the right hand of the Father, and that he still lives. And now knowing that, it was able to keep me sober for 3 weeks out of sheer terror. And I fell back in it. And then, like I said earlier, after that I ended up in prison. And when I got out, I swore I'd never touch it again. Swore I'd never touch it again. And I got out. And when I got out, I began to experience stomach pain, stomach problems. Lots of pain. And I began to deal with that pain the only way I knew how. The same way I've dealt with any other kind of pain, emotional, physical. I began to go get painkillers. Began to buy them from the streets. Eventually those got so expensive, they got hard to find. But heroin, it was always cheap and easy to find. So I began to go back down that route. After my stomach started hurting a lot, I began to go to the doctors to see what was going on. Now, while I'm going to the doctors and they're running tests and trying to find answers, I slip and I fall on the ice and I land on the steps and now my back's all jacked up. So as I'm going to the doctor for my stomach issues, now I have back issues also. So I'm going to the doctors for both. And I'm telling them, I'm in all this pain, but they're looking at my history because by now I've got felonies, I've got drug possessions, and they won't prescribe me anything. But test results finally come back after a period of time on my stomach, and now they believe I have Crohn's disease. It was brutal. Couldn't hold anything down, stuck in the bathroom. Can't go anywhere because you never know when you're going to have to go to the bathroom. Like, that's the truth of it. You just don't know. The medicines they were prescribing me wasn't working. And now I got back issues. So these back issues were bad enough that I laid lame on the couch for 5 years. Because the doctors could not find what was going on with my back. Essentially, they were calling me a liar. They were saying that I was just going to see them and making up reasons to get drugs from them. Yet they were not giving me drugs. So after so long of that, people began to question, does he really hurt? Is he just lazy? The doctors are saying nothing's wrong. Would you believe it if I told you that I began to even question myself? Thinking and wondering, am I going crazy? Is my mind powerful enough that I'm making up this pain? Until one day, 5 years later, I go to a neurosurgeon in Kettering, Ohio, at Kettering Hospital. And he takes a look at a simple x-ray. And something must have caught his eye, because he said, would you care if I have our radiologist read this? And I thought, please, by all means. And he came back about 5 minutes later and he said, we're going to get you ready for surgery. You're going to have surgery in the next week. He looked at me and he said, I don't even know how you're walking. Come to find out, I was born with spina bifida. Part of my vertebrae didn't grow all the way around my spinal cord. My L5 was slipping a centimeter to the front, and my sacrum hadn't fused itself all the way together. It moved around on its own. He said the only reason that I was still able to move and support myself, even though it was extremely painful all the time, was because I was an athlete growing up. My back muscles were quite strong. And so I said, thank you, God. Like, this is the answer. Like, I've been vindicated. Like, I'm not a liar. The things I've been experiencing, I'm not crazy. I didn't make them up. Like, they really exist. So to go into the surgery, he was just going to fuse my vertebrae, because that's what he was seeing to begin with. And so we go to the surgery, and he gets in there. Surgery was supposed to take, a few hours, and ended up taking 7.5, because he said when he got in there, that's when he found the spina bifida. He found the vertebrae didn't grow over. He had to take his time. They had to glue my sacrum back together. They had put some rods in there and all that good stuff. But I thought in my mind, hey, this is the answer. Like, my pain's going to go away. I can get off drugs now. Like, opiates weren't my thing. I didn't like them, but I needed them. And doctors wouldn't give them to me, so I got them any way I could. So I thought it was the answer, but it wasn't. You see, even after the surgery, the pain didn't go anywhere. It changed nothing. It simply changed nothing. And I continued to put heroin in my veins. And now by this time, I'm married to my son's mom. By this time, she's fed up, because I can't quit. She says things like, if you love me, you'll stop. What she didn't understand was I couldn't stop. I couldn't. No matter how much I wanted to, I couldn't stop. I didn't even want the stuff. I preferred cocaine. I was a depressive, sad person already because of circumstances in my life. I don't want to be down. So I had surgery in late June, early July of 2014. And by beginning of November, my wife asked me to leave the house, that she needed a break. but that we'd still work on things if I could get it together. So I went and I stayed with my grandma. And I kept telling her I was clean and I was getting it together, but I wasn't. I was lying. I needed my family. Like, for me to be a man and me to survive, I needed a family. But I couldn't work. I couldn't provide. I was strung out. The only thing on my mind was getting that dope in me so that I didn't hurt, so that in my mind I could be part of my family. But the funny thing is that thing I needed to be part of my family was exactly the reason and cause that I couldn't be part of my family. And so after a period of time, by December, I wasn't a good person. I was angry. I was harassing her. I was being a fool, man. Tormenting the very thing that you want to keep. It doesn't even make sense to me. But that's what I was doing. I was afraid, and I was making everybody around me afraid. But nobody could have been more afraid than I was. Because here I am, I can't work, I can't support myself. I'm losing my family. Like, nobody wants to be around me because I'm manipulative, I'm a liar, I'm a thief. Yet I'm mad at them because they don't want to be around me. So she finally tells me, she said, I want a divorce. And that was it for me. You see, I was already hopeless and helpless. I was an addict. Once an addict, always an addict, right? Just hold on tight till you fall again and hope you survive it to come back. I was tired of all that. I'd been to the AA meetings, the NA meetings. I'd done all the programs the court system says. I've done everything the medical community said to do, and nothing was working. As I go to AA meetings, that was a trigger for me. They say change people, places, and things, but all I'm doing is going to a place with the same people, places, and things. They say do the fourth step, and I'd do it, and I'd put it out on paper. And I'd see everything that I'd ever done, everything that I'd ever experienced, and it hurt. And not knowing how to handle emotion and how to work through all that, I did always what I always knew to do. To control the emotion with drugs. So those things didn't work for me. I do believe those things help people. Please don't hear what I'm not saying. It just didn't help me. For whatever reason, it didn't help me. I wish that it would, because I don't think I'd have been in the place that I was in. Because when she said I want a divorce, I decided it was time to die. I attempted suicide. Put enough dope in my system to make sure I died. And after I did, I took off and I walked down a dark country road. And then I remember changing my mind after it's already too late. I remember saying, God, I've changed my mind. I don't want to die anymore. If you save me, I'll be your soldier. And now I told you that I had overdosed already and died 3 times in the one overdose. So I began to recognize the same feelings that I had right before I overdosed the other time. I began to recognize that feeling. And I began to fall as I was walking, and as I was falling to my knee, headlights had hit me on this dark country road where people had been passing me and passing me and passing me. And all of a sudden, as I'm falling, I hear this lady's voice, and she says, "Are you hit?" And I said, "No, I took too much." And I fell down on my face right there, right at the side of the road. I would have died right there. But I believe, because I said, "God, if you save me," He was faithful and He answered. Even when I wasn't faithful, even when I didn't believe that He could do it or would do it, or He had a lady right there waiting for me to cry out. And they was able to get help there in time. Saved my life. So now I'm in the ICU for days. I go from the ICU to the psych ward. And I'm wondering, why did I even ask to be saved? Why didn't I just die? Like nothing's changed. I'm still hurting, emotionally, physically. Like nothing's changed. My stomach's still jacked up. My back, even though I had surgery, still jacked up. Nothing's changed. Still can't work. Wife still wants to divorce me. So about 3 weeks go by, I find myself up in Michigan, up in Muskegon, Michigan, at Western Michigan Teen Challenge. I went there wanting to get sober. I went there wanting to get my family back. But I got so much more than even that. On the 5th day that I was there, now Teen Challenge is not just for teens, it's also for adults. Adult and Teen Challenge. And it's a ministry. I don't like to use the word program because by this time I was programmed out. This is number 8. So, it's a ministry. It's a discipleship ministry. And so on the 5th day that I was there, now I'm still in pain. Stomach still all jacked up. Beginning to go through withdrawals. It's January of 2015 now. January 16th, to be exact. It's the 5th day that I'm there. And we have chapel in the morning. And Pastor asks if anybody needs prayer to come up. And, something inside of me just shot me up out of that chair. And I hobbled my way up. And when I got up there, he began to pray for me. And the other guys that were there come and surrounded me. And they laid their hands on me and they began to pray for me. And I began to cry and just say, "God, help me. God, help me. I've done everything else. Nothing else has helped. Nothing else has done anything for me. Help me. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you will, but you're my only hope." And he did. He did. He astonished me because I was standing and these guys were praying for me. And then the next thing I remember, I'm getting up off the ground. And when I get up off the ground, there's no more pain in my back. When I get up off the ground, the weight of the world had lifted off my shoulders. When I got off my back, my stomach didn't hurt anymore. I had been healed. My body had physically been healed. And now this God that I didn't think loved me, I'd heard He loves people. I had heard that He does these things. But I didn't believe because If He did, He wasn't doing it for me. I mean, look around. Look at all this wickedness going on. Look at all this hurt. Look at all this cancer. Look at all this pain. What do you mean He's a God that loves? He must not love me. But that day, January 16th, He completely changed my beliefs. He showed me that He is a God who loves. He is a God that's present. He is a God who's doing the same things He's always done, whether you believe Him or you don't believe Him. You see, in the church community, we often hear that you don't have enough faith. But I'm here to tell you, I didn't believe in healing. I was a skeptic. I would turn the TV on and see the televangelists and people falling to the ground, and I thought, that's a great way to make money. Those liars. I can no longer say that. You see, for there to be a false, there also has to be a real. And I've experienced the real. My life was changed on January 16th of 2015. My life turned around at that moment simply because other people believed and they prayed for me. Even when I didn't believe. So I spent a year there as a student, learning how to pray, learning the scriptures, learning what it means to be a lover of Jesus, to glorify Him, to share what He's done in my life. You see, I was a doubting Thomas before. I thought I had gone too far, that if He was a God of love, He couldn't love me. Because I'd done this or I'd done that. Often I thought maybe I should go back to church, but directly following that would be, if you do, you're going to get struck dead. You're going to be smited. You walk into that church. You're filthy. But you know what I've learned? I've learned that there's nothing that can separate us from the love of God. Not angel, not demon. There's nothing. Not drugs. There's nothing that can separate us from the love of God, because He loves us, because He is faithful. He's calling us all. He wants us all to experience the deliverance and the healing, because He loves us. Not because we deserve it. It'll be almost 5 years in January. Almost 5 years that I put a needle in my arm. I have real freedom. I'm not on any medications. I still don't have any stomach pain. My back still don't hurt. Any man in Christ Jesus is a new creature, a new creation. Old things are passed away, and all things become new. You see, you don't have to believe in these things. But somebody like me who does believe in these things, my faith can stand in for you. I believe that if you're watching this right now, the Lord is working in your life, whether you can see it or not. I believe that right now, even as I speak, He is healing. Even as I speak, He is making a pathway straight, because He wants to deliver you. I believe that He's drawing you. I believe that if your heart is fluttering in this moment, He wants to speak to you. I believe that if your heart is racing, just answer Him. I'm here, Lord. If you doubt, tell Him. See, I'm not even sure about this. I think this guy's lying. If you're real, show yourself to me. Because right now, even as we speak, the Holy Spirit is at work. Some of you are experiencing a warmth, a presence of God because He is still present right now by the power of His Holy Spirit. And His plans are not to harm you. They're not to harm you. Don't credit God for all the bad that's going on. That's the enemy, the devil. All things that are good come from God, they come from heaven. Deliverance and healing, that's good. You see, I never had to use any of the pharmaceuticals, the Suboxone or anything like that. I think those things are great. People are not dying with a needle in their arm. I don't believe it's the full answer. But that's my beliefs. If that's something you're on, I'm so happy that you're not dead with a needle in your arm. I just ask you, give Jesus a chance. And those of you who believe in Jesus, who are on those things, continue to seek Him. Ask Him for deliverance. Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. We don't have to be a slave to another drug. We don't have to be a slave to sin. The power of and dominion of sin is broken by the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, the blood that He shed on the cross. There is forgiveness. There doesn't have to be shame and guilt. That's nailed to the cross of Jesus Christ. So if your heart is fluttering right now, I say just ask Him in. If you're a doubting Thomas, a skeptic like I was, just ask Him to show Himself. Because God is love. And many of us, we're just on a journey searching for love. But I can tell you that if you find God, my Father in heaven, through Jesus Christ, His loving presence by the power of His Holy Spirit will be with you. He says, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. So now I get to work with his Hope Teen Challenge. And we offer hope to the community of Mimersburg, Ohio and surrounding places. You know, my story is not one in and of itself. I'm not special. You see, these things that happen in my life are happening in the lives of others as well. You see, when I came out of Teen Challenge, I still was not perfect. I fell on my face again. You know, I didn't begin to use heroin again, but I began smoking pot. Thought it was okay. So for a couple months, that's what I did. And I thought it was okay. I was still doing the same things I'd always done. Reading my Bible, praying, going to church. And I didn't feel any conviction about it. And then one day, the heavy conviction fell on me. And I had to reevaluate what I was doing. God didn't save my life. God didn't put those miracles in my life for me to continue to do what I wanted to do. To continue to smash down emotion and stress with drugs. Like, that's what got me there. So I put it down. By the grace of God, the first time in my life, I was able to just put it down. It's not for me. God saved my life that I could tell people, you know, you don't have to live that way. God saved my life that I can be an example of His love, His grace, and His mercy. That I can tell you it's not just for me, but that there's an invitation for you also, and that it can be done with His loving grace. So when I got out, I worked another job for a few years, and God put me in contact with a fellow who's executive director of His Hope Teen Challenge. And come to find out, his story was real similar to mine. He had gotten out and messed up, so he also began to see that, these programs, they cost money. And there's many people dying and hurting and needing help. And so he began to pray. And God began to provide. God began to use people to give him money. And that money was used to sponsor people to get into Teen Challenge, because he also is a Teen Challenge graduate. And so he recognized the need that people need help getting into these places financially, because by this time we've burnt so many bridges, our families sure don't want to give us any more money. So he began sponsoring people, getting them into Teen Challenge, but he began to also recognize that when people get out, a lot of times, they make the same mistakes. They go back to the same places, begin to do the same things that are so comfortable, and begin getting high again. So he also began to see a need of people needing help getting plugged back into the community, finding jobs, churches, that type of thing. And so he developed his Hope Teen Challenge. And what we do is we're a resource, we're a reference. We refer people to teen challenges and some other ministries, some other faith-based ministries, but also if you're not interested in anything faith-based, there's also places that isn't faith-based that we refer to. So just give us a call. But on top of that, we hold group meetings for those people who aren't interested in long-term help. We hold groups. We also have a house, a missional home, where people who have graduated from a long-term faith-based program, we're kind of like a safety net. I experienced the trouble of trying to get plugged in when I got home. So did Rusty. And so we have a missional home where somebody who graduates can come and stay. And we help them get plugged into the community, help them get plugged into church, begin to show them what it means to live a life for Christ afterwards in the midst of this world, this chaotic place. Because, Teen Challenge is such a structured environment. When you come out, everything around just seems so chaotic. Everything's out of control, it's fast-paced, and it's stressful. So we just provide a place that somebody can continue their walk with Christ, and get acclimated. We try and do things here in the community, and God knows we got so much room to grow. There's a direction we want to move in, but we're praying about it, seeking the resource. But I encourage you, if this has touched you in any way, if the Lord has used this in any way, tell somebody. Tell somebody Jesus does love them, whether they feel it or not, because He does. If you're a Christian out there, pray for somebody. Offer hope. Because that's what His hope is here to do. That's the only reason I'm still alive, is to share the glory of the Lord and tell you the miraculous ways He's worked in my life, that it's not only for me, but it can be for you also. If you're interested in contacting His Hope Teen Challenge, www.hishopemission.org. Our phone number, address, all that's on there. But I thank you for your time. God bless you.